I did it. I did it. We're live. Welcome back, loyal listeners, to season 2, episode 22 of the Point 3 podcast. It is Wednesday, October 16th, and we are absolutely pumped to have you joining us once again. I'm Lou, alongside Hero Scroll, and of course, Spider Brando. We are your favorite trio of hosts, and today we're talking about the latest superhero news and notes from the past week. Of course, we're going to be chatting about MCU, DCU, and of course, stay tuned for our deep dive on the Fantastic Four as we are on the road to Superman and the Fantastic Four movies for 2025's summer. But listen, everyone, let's not waste any more time. It's time to share the 3 most important things that we mention every week. Keep watching, keep reading, keep nerding out. Listen, I'm going to kick this off. It's going to be nice and sweet. Keep watching Dragon Ball Daima. Watch that first episode. Y'all, it took me back. I don't care about the confusion of like, is it canon? Did it just delete Super? What's going on? The visuals were so crispy. And on the heels of playing Sparking Zero, I just was in awe of the entire show. It was fantastic for episode 1. Akira Toriyama, thank you very much. Great episode 1. If you didn't get a chance to check it out and you're a Dragon Ball fan, I still highly recommend it. The remastering and like the new animation of some things that ended in Z look really, really good. Like really good. I just big nerding. So
yeah.
All right. Keep reading. What do we got?
Keep reading. Got something that's very on brand for what we're going to be talking about later in our deep dive with the Road to Fantastic Four. That is Fantastic Four Full Circle. This came out probably like 2 years ago now at this point, and it's kind of Alex Ross's like first long form written comic, written and drawn by him. So really good artwork for Marvel's First Family, and I will save my full thoughts for it later. Some great moments in it though, and some fantastic art already again. But yeah, Fantastic Four Full Circle. There's a deluxe edition I think coming out sometime this year or early next year, which I think has like a bunch of concept art and a couple more pages to the story. So be on the lookout for that in case you haven't picked this up. And I would still say if you want to pick this up, definitely do. It's only like $20. So, and it's definitely worth it.
I gotta read that one day.
Yeah. It's interesting. I didn't know what to expect the first time I went into it. And I think it wasn't my favorite thing that I read. But now reading it again, knowing what to expect with it, knowing more about Fantastic Four as well, I enjoyed it a lot more. Again, still not my favorite thing of them. Another story holds that crown for right now, but definitely worth the read.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take it over to nerding out because we got some F4 yapping to do later. I've been nerding out about this Superior Spider-Man Funko because it's just mint. It's beautiful. It's black eyes, amazing. But I just finished Superior Spider-Man, the omnibus. This bad boy, last weekend, and getting the first Superior Funko in this weekend. It's amazing. So it's gonna go great with the Superior Octopus that I have.
Oh
And
yeah. That's right.
This one clears it by far, and you guys got to get your hands on one.
Dude, it looks good like in person technically,
So
but like
good.
it looks nice out of box.
Discord to see it.
Yeah.
Up close and personal.
Spider-Man fans, especially with the Funkos, we're eating good this year. Got that Scarlet Spider announced today, and then all the other comic covers and every other ones that are coming out.
I need that $20.99 comic cover.
Yeah. But SB, if I remember, you ordered more than one, right?
I did.
That's
I do
period.
have to.
Mm.
Stay tuned.
He's got to have
Stay
one for
tuned
every
to-
corner. All right, he's got to have one everywhere he goes. Okay.
Or potential giveaway. Cough,
Ooh.
cough.
No, dropping hints.
Just stay tuned to our Discord and our socials, and
Yeah.
subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed.
Yeah. Really quick before we jump over to general news, completely random. Yeah, he's gonna keep one in the bathroom and one in the bedroom. Yeah,
Damn
one that
right.
he sleeps next to, and then one that stays on the stream. One that he brushes his teeth with. Totally joking, by the way. My one
Alright.
quick thing that I forgot to mention, or not forgot, but I want to mention, is that NYCC is this week. So to whoever is watching this, whether you're watching live or watching this later, if you went or are going, have fun, be safe, but enjoy it, have fun, man. This NYCC seems like this year seems like a lot of fun. Granted, both. Both. But yeah, I don't know. NYCC just looks like it keeps getting bigger year after year, and hopefully next year we'll be there.
Next year 2025 should be year of the .3 con. So
yeah,
So many cons.
so many.
I'm so mad I missed NYCC this year.
Oh, it's okay. We're gonna.
Elizabeth Olsen's gonna be there, man.
You won't be able to call her mommy to her face. Don't worry, there will be another chance there, because the problem is you probably won't be the first to do it there. So she's probably gonna have a lot of that. So you're gonna want to save it a couple years after, to where it dies down a little bit.
Listen, here's the thing for all the Wanda stands, all the Agatha stands. Elizabeth Olsen's on stage, Aubrey Plaza's on stage. You can only call one. Which one you picking? Spider Brain, no, this is for you.
Next question.
No, our life's on the line. .3 podcast is on the line.
Yeah.
YouTube just got in here and they said, "Hey, we're gonna hit the delete button on your channel. You're gonna lose everything." Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Moreland's got both of us by the neck.
Yeah. He said, "I'm gonna make a .1 podcast if you don't answer who you're gonna do this for." We got one Olsen easy in the chat.
Aubrey's in her green fit, and obviously Wanda's in her Scarlet Witch fit.
Going.
This guy legit? Are you pleading the fifth on the
I was
live?
gonna say, I think
I
he's.
just said Elizabeth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
He regrets it. Look at him. He regrets it.
I was gonna say I don't know. He didn't sound too sure.
Scarlet Witch costume is something else. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, like exactly what I said.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Well, it's a good segue.
But
it's okay. The love will always be there for her.
Yeah, she just saw this and you just lost your shot.
You broke her heart. Broke her heart. Almost the same way that Invincible's heart was broken in the teaser, where he was asking on their universe's Twitter who was the hottest in Invincible. We got the teaser for Invincible season 3, guys.
With
a beautiful confirmation date of February 6th, 2025, along with no mid-season breaks. Gentlemen, this is a double whammy, because we should be at MegaCon together when this comes out.
Stream the episode live, baby. Walking through, digging through some boxes.
Oh,
and then watching it with Invincible season 3.
Damn, I gotta get Invincible comics then.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I'll be very interested to see how the animation looks for this season, and how kind of committed they are to this now that it's going to not have that break. I mean, I think we can all say that was a killer for last season.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, to be quite honest, though, I didn't think we would get this quick of a turnaround for it.
They committed. They committed to it.
Yeah.
I think it's smart. I think it's smart. Whatever they
Oh,
did
yeah.
to push this out, hopefully, working conditions are, positive, but smart.
The animation in that little teaser that they did too, that was some heat as well. You could tell it looked just better and more stylish than all of season 2.
Yeah.
It very well could be that the mid-season break from last year's was to kind of catch up on season 3 and maybe try
Yeah.
to, like, catch up and be able to release it quicker than not. And yeah, that Blue Lock, that's really bad. I saw a clip of it and not good. But I think it kind of like SB was saying, it's looking like a step above.
Yeah. No, agreed. All right. Hero, I think you got some more general news that you want to throw out there.
Yeah. Really quickly, we were talking about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Sold an astonishing 3 million copies in 24 hours of launch.
Hold on.
Gentlemen, in comparison, Spider-Man 2 last year sold about 2 million copies in the same time. So this beat out Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5. Obviously, it helps that this isn't just a PlayStation exclusive. This is on all platforms, but that's still huge numbers. So good time to be a Dragon Ball fan for sure. And then our last bit of general news, if you haven't seen it on Twitter or X, Pokemon Game Freak got hacked. They are labeling this as the Terra hack because over a terabyte of information was leaked or taken from Game Freak, ranging from old Generation 3 Pokemon sprites all the way to unannounced animes and games that have yet to come out. It's everything in between. We won't talk about it here because we don't want the Nintendo ninjas coming after us. We want to stay alive because if Moreland can't even compete with those Nintendo ninjas. So if you want to see any of that for yourself, go find it. It's out there. Typhlosion fans, it's a bad time for us. I won't lie. It's a bad time for us, Typhlosion fans.
Nah, man, you don't want to see Mario and Luigi sitting around the corner, getting that cigarette out of their mouth and putting on the ground. You're just like, I'm gonna walk a little faster and faster and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you know? What do you know about this leak?
Yeah,
dude. That's here's the hard part about this, because us at the Point 3 podcast, like, we talk about leak culture fairly frequently, especially when it pertains to Marvel. This is different in the sense of, like, I didn't really know about it, to be honest with you. I've kind of been under a Pokemon rock for the last minute. But, dude, when you have big leaks like this that affect not only the past but the future, and fans can really dive into it, like, I don't think this is one of those like Marvel where it's like, here's a little sprinkle of some information. Now people can kind of keep it top of mind. So, like, we're relevant for a long time. Like, this is legit stuff that, like, I think here you said it offline that people shouldn't see, but now we do.
Yeah.
And I want to know, you know what I mean? So it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But awesome. But unfortunate.
It's cool in certain ways, right? Because I think, at least when it pertains to the concept art of the Pokemon, it's cool to see what we could have had. And I think that's always something interesting to see in the development of games.
Horrifying, though.
Some are horrifying. They are, but it's still cool to see the thought process behind that. And Game Freak as a company really doesn't go out of their way to do that. There are other companies that they're like, hey, buy this art book after the game comes out, maybe a little bit after or in the game itself. And they're like, look at all the concept art. But I mean, when you're going through old prototypes and old builds of games, and I mean fully functioning builds of games, and kind of confirming old leaks, that's crazy. I think from what I read, Zaid, the personal info on staff was very limited It was very limited what was leaked on that, from my understanding. Could be wrong, but obviously that's always also very, very bad. But I think most people are not super interested in that, which is kind of crazy to say. I think, like we said, everybody's looking at all these old things and then the absolutely insane lore stories that are being released. So yeah, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of this yet. So it'll be interesting also to see what Pokemon / Game Freak does in response. How do they get out ahead of this, especially knowing that their future games are in the possession of other people?
Yeah.
That is a big PR dilemma that they are in.
Yeah.
I don't know. TBD on that one. I would not want to be at that company in that room dealing with this right now. I could only imagine
the nightmare that is. Game's been in the mud. That's up for the debate, to be quite honest. That's a different conversation for another day. But yeah, crazy to see. Crazy time to be a Pokemon fan too.
Yeah.
But crazy time to be DCU fan too, right?
Heck yeah.
Lou, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with what I'm gonna say is the biggest news. I mean, we got Crypto, which is going to arrive on screen in Superman this summer. James Gunn put out a post kind of detailing the origins and inspiration of Crypto for the Superman movie that's coming out next year, with the adopted dog that he got, Ozu. It's the picture I love the picture. And I know we've been talking about this on Discord, and it's something that I'm personally seeing more and more people talk about, of just what does this image kind of mean. Shout out to Dill Pickle Funko, asking that question to us, because I think it's all something that we've talked about at some point. But to that point, Zaid, it's unavoidable right now, but you got your comparisons between Snyder's Superman and, not everyone's loving this, but at the same time, we just got that not everyone's loving the casting of Jon Stewart with Aaron Pierre. Like, it just it is what it is. But what did you guys think of this of this photo? It's pretty sick that this is animated, but what did you guys think of this, and how were you kind of feeling with your overall perception of the movie's build to this point as well?
I am loving it. I've been wanting nothing but to pick up that Superman Grant Morrison omnibus behind me ever since all this Superman talk has been coming out the last week. There's some tidbits of it, just sprinkles throughout last week with Gunn talking here and there, but then dropping Crypto and this whole story and image, gets me going. I can't wait till I just want to see more of the marketing so bad on this film, and what they do with it and how they present it, because this just looks so hopeful.
Yeah. I gotta agree with Spider Brando here. I'm loving it. I'm loving what we're getting. Again, kind of a trickle of news for the entirety of the DCU, right? Because last week we were talking about the Jon Stewart casting. This week we're talking about Crypto, which I think we all kind of had an inkling that it was gonna happen based on other reports. But then we also get like a cool look at Superman's cape from behind, which we didn't get an official look at. So now that we see it, we get another cool glimpse of the full costume, and then we're also getting an idea of what this version of Superman is trying to portray, because key art like this is obviously very very important to the marketing, because of what they're trying to show to people, to show the audience of the feel of the movie. And in this case, like Brandon said, it's very hopeful. You know, it looks like they're chilling after saving the day, or just, you know, man chilling with his dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some things kind of floating out there now at this point too of, you know, to Spider Brando's point, the marketing for this movie is really going to emphasize hope, how positivity is an admirable virtue, kind of that overall Boy Scout nature of Superman. You know, a lot of people are pretty pumped that that's the main driver of this version or adaptation that we're getting from the DCU Superman. So, um, kind of what I've always wanted personally, and it feels good that it seems to be realized. And gosh, I just got to say it, like, it feels so good that these things move quickly and they're confirmed by actual people that are a part of the actual project and production versus, you know, it being DC News with 17 Z's. So
And like 13 underscores.
yeah, that just like
D
it,
underscore C underscore U.
No
it's
shade
just
to anybody else, obviously.
yeah,
Aw.
but it's good that it's coming. Personally, again, just to double down on it, like, it's concrete. Like, there's no guessing. We can move on. You know what I mean? Like, we get it, and it's momentum that's building forward, just adding to the overall feel of this movie. And side note to this, do you guys, are you buying or selling that them being ahead of schedule is a good thing or a bad thing for this movie? I know it's something that we haven't talked about, but in conjunction to these posts, I'm seeing a lot of discourse on it's a bad thing that the movie is ahead of schedule and they've been done and they're working post.
I don't know what it's like from like a filmmaking or movie production standpoint, but I feel like it's always better to be ahead than behind. And like to be able to fine tune all these scenes. Like James Gunn said months ago about how the best way to film a movie is to go through that whole like 10-step process of over plan, over prepare, and like don't like plan for reshoots, just get it done on the first shot essentially.
Yeah.
So that it buys them the time to, like Zaid just said, it's his way to polish up the VFX. I just watched a clip from Guardians 3 earlier today, and boy, I need to do a rewatch. I've been yearning for a rewatch of that movie for so long. And watching this clip of someone posted like underneath like a little crypto meme of how Gunn is gonna potentially destroy us with another CGI animal like every movie he does has.
Yeah.
And man, that rocket scene in Guardians 3 so gets the heart going every time. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't. I know it's been like a year and a half since it's been out, but I can't wait. I can't wait. It's so good to hear it from the source, like you said too.
Yeah.
It'll be like Feige coming out here and squashing some of this BS that we've been hearing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now I was gonna say it's a good thing. I mean, it really lets you. I would imagine, right? Especially coming from whenever you work professionally on a project, it's always good to have the time to plan things out and show them in the way that you want to. And in this case, that's what he's doing, right? Showing it in the way that he wants to, and giving you the pieces that he wants to when he wants to, right? Uh, Especially being like, for example, so close to NYCC. I wouldn't be surprised if we get something else out of it. But you know, him giving us this week, next month we might have something else. Maybe a look at Lex, maybe a look at Lois or something. You know, it again, kind of going back to what we've said before. It's very intentional what they're showing us when they show it to us as well.
Mhm.
And it's building up the proper hype.
Yeah.
Right. Because yeah, he could just drop a trailer right now and give you everything. I think there was like a rumor kind of going around that is possible within the near future. But why not show
YCC.
you? Yeah, but why
I'd
not
go
show you?
nuts if I was there and I saw a freaking trailer.
Yeah, I think the rumor was like next year, January/February,
Yeah, like
Super
Super
Bowl,
Bowl time.
which I wouldn't be surprised if that's the first look we do get. But I mean, it's things like this that generate hype. Look at we saw it on the X post. I mean, 3.5 million views on that on Twitter alone, and then that doesn't even account for all the other socials. So
Yeah.
This movie has eyes on it.
Yeah, and it just
does.
so far, I mean, for those of you watching, if you've been following along with us on our kind of unofficially Road to Superman movie, the build for this has just been glaringly organic. Nothing feels forced at this point, and everything that comes out feels like how Superman's supposed to feel. Like it feels pretty genuine to this point, which is kind of crazy in 2024. But I do also like though that Gunn in DC and all their official sites and stuff are going to have a presence at NYCC and focus on the Creature Commandos. For those of you that don't know, it is going to be the first thing in the DCU. Technically, Superman is going to be the first DCU movie. I know there's a lot of confusion on this still. Like, I still don't understand how it has to be said 1,000 times. But we're going to get our first real look at kind of the world that they're building with this, albeit animation. And we know some characters are going to carry over. So that'll be exciting to kind of see, what they look like. Zaid, yes, I have been personally keeping up with Superman and Lois here and there, but there are some new episodes. The season premiere was kind of wild, actually. Some good stuff. If you guys haven't checked it out, like watch the first 3 episodes. I think I was saying that, this time last year, like Snyder fans who I'll say this is my only thing I'll say on this. Snyder fans who say that is the true Superman at this point with who we have, I would put that Superman head to head, toe to toe with Henry Cavill's Superman all day, every day. If you want a portrayal and a more accurate Superman.
Yeah. It's and I mean, it kind of going back to the marketing thing. It's kind of smart that they're using NYCC for Creature Commandos, especially doing like a whole big experience with it, like they are. It's very smart because I think not too many people care about Creature Commandos or really even know what's going on. Besides that trailer that they released, I think last month or the month before. So it's very smart to use kind of your biggest in-person convention, the last one of this year at least, to really market that and push for it.
Yeah. No. Good things for DC, and for those that haven't been watching, Penguin is really good. Penguin's really good, like really good. So definitely check that out. I think when it's all said and done, we'll probably talk about it here on the channel. I just think there's good perception overall. Just the perception of DC is very positive, and Joker 2, I don't think made as much of a dent as people assumed during that opening weekend on just the overall feel of DC. So I'm surprised. Like, I feel like it's shout out to all my Dragon Ball fans, but like a big old Frieza world ending blast it's consuming Bardock's little energy ball. Like, that's Joker 2 in my mind. It's just like, doesn't matter. See ya.
Yeah. Crazy how fast the I guess like attention span on the movie has kind of come and gone already. Where it kind of came out, people were pissed, and everybody's like, all right, whatever, let's just forget about this movie.
But to be honest, okay, a real quick side note to that, because I do think it's interesting that people really have just kind of like pushed that to the side and just really moved on. Overall, it's very odd to me. But do you think that's because we knew what the movie was going to be all along and they refuted it as hard as they possibly could, but it ended up being true in the end? And people are just like, we knew it.
In part, yeah. I'd say in part it's that, and in part it's also the entire time, right? Them refuting it and trying to play it up to be something else. And then for Phillips to come out and be like, yeah, this is basically like a big old middle finger to, the fans' first response, like made you guys want to think about it. And when you realize that again, it's kind of like a big old screw you to the fans, it kind of rubs people the wrong way. And then when you know that, hey, the studio wanted, and I mean, obviously, studio involvement here or there, that's a different conversation, good or bad. But him being like, nope, get out of here. Maybe you should have listened to some pointers. And then even hearing Christopher Nolan have to step in and be like, hey, cut that. We don't want that. Nah. It's just too much negative around a movie. And I think people are kind of tired about dogging on movies. Hopefully. At least I think they didn't want to dog on this one as much. I think they wanted this one to succeed, and then it didn't. And then people were like, dang. Oh, well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to let this one sit for maybe, a year or so and to rewatch it with some fresh eyes. I mean, it's already coming out on digital, in like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's quick. I don't know. Spider-Man, how do you feel afterwards? Like, is it something that you've thought about or you've just moved on from the movie?
I haven't thought much about it since last weekend. I want to rewatch it when it's on digital, which actually I did see October 29th.
Yeah.
It's coming out, yeah.
2 weeks.
It's nuts. It came out in theaters on October 4th. 25 days. But yeah, I'm not too. It's just it is what it is. Type movie.
Yeah.
GG go next.
I was saying I think I've heard more people come out and say that the movie's just boring. And I think for a movie, that's the worst thing you can be.
It's the worst thing for all the wrestling fans. It's like there's no reaction. Like there's no boo, there's no cheer. It's just quiet.
Yeah. I think the outrage online was kind of the initial thing of just like, oh, this isn't what we wanted. But then when people got over that and we're like, all right, let's try to give it a shot. And then people are just like, this is boring.
Yeah. I like musicals, so I didn't think it was that boring.
But again, this is just going purely based off what I read.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just
the ones. Oh no, I was gonna say the ones that said even that they like musicals are saying that the musical parts were boring. They didn't really try with it, so I don't know how true that is, obviously, but it's bad when even a lot of people are saying that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even poor joke.
All right. Shall we mosey on to the MCU real quick?
Yeah,
I say we shall.
I'm gonna start it off with one major thing. Are you guys buying or selling this particular rumor? We've heard it before. It's come back around again and is just recirculating. But a rumor, buy or sell real quick. Robert Downey Jr. will have the most screen time in Avengers Doomsday.
so
You're selling it?
so
I feel like that's something I would buy.
Just because it's called Doomsday?
Yeah, it's literally in the name, Doomsday, Doom. Like, how else could they make I mean, Thanos was in a lot of Infinity War.
My movie wasn't called Thanos War then.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It wasn't called Thanos War, and he was in a lot of it. So this is Doomsday. He's gonna be in a lot of it. If those contract rumors are true, he better be in every single frame of both.
Dude, honestly, I mean, I feel like this guy
he
is
better
gonna be
doing the directing.
honestly the way that it sounds from all this stuff, like when you piece the puzzle together, which a lot of it's junk, but like if you look through it and just kind of be like, what is this? You know what? Maybe he is gonna have the most screen time. He's making the most money. The guy's got his own like Marvel machine, and I feel like he's gonna be in a room by himself and he's like, action, and then turn around and be like, cut. And be like, what are you doing, Robert? And he's like, I don't know. Just
I just came what was natural.
I don't know.
The only reason I sell it, and I know that comic book accuracy isn't a thing within the MCU, but both Secret Wars are very Doom focused. Like, I don't think they work if you don't have Doom as the main focal point of that movie. I do think Doomsday will set up and he will be featured heavily in it, but I think Secret Wars will be the one that does more. That's why I sell it. So like Doomsday, if they're saying like he's gonna have like 40 minutes of screen time, Secret Wars is gonna be like 42.5 minutes.
Okay. Here's one more buy or sell for you. We know that there's rumors of Null being in
Sell.
Spider-Man 4.
So
What? Tom Hardy said that, you know what? This is the last dance. This is my last movie. Like, I'm hanging up my symbiote. I'm just going to rip it off and put it on a hook. But of course, one can assume potentially that, you know, Tom Hardy's Venom's going to come back into, you know, the Spider-Man 4 as it goes from grounded to Kazai. But are you guys buying or selling that Tom Hardy is done in 2024 as Venom, never to be seen again in another Marvel movie?
that he's done.
Done.
Oh, if he's done, I'd buy that.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think he's coming back.
Okay.
I do think Tom Hardy is done for sure.
Yeah, Tom Hardy, not Venom or any, like, not the character. Like,
No.
we're never going to see the character of Venom again.
No,
Tom Hardy
Hardy's done.
specifically.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
he's done. Yeah.
Okay. SB?
Buying it as well. I don't know. I just don't see it going on for a fourth movie or like fourth involvement in said movie. It's just it's not enough room in all these projects. I don't know.
Plenty of room in the multiverse. I'm buying it. I mean, I'm selling it. I'm selling it. I'm selling it. I think man's gonna come back, and this is just another one of those stupid technicalities where like he's never gonna have another Sony
hates
movie.
him the most as Venom here.
I
That's what,
can't.
I don't know. I don't.
Wait, you think
because
you
I don't
hate him the
want
most? I mean,
No, I'm saying you hate him the most.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that's crazy that you're even thinking about selling it.
I gotta go the opposite of what I want. Then you know that's how it
Yeah.
goes. You know,
It is. They're gonna find some technicality and bring him back and be like Venom 4 encore dance.
Last Dance Part 2.
Yeah, Venom 4, the rewind of the dance,
Oh, dude.
something dumb like that.
It's Venom 4, Last Dance, Keep Dancing. That's it.
Yeah,
It never ends.
Venom 4 Footloose.
Can't afford Just Dance.
Just keep going.
No, he's gonna hop in the multiverse and go back to Spider-Man: Homecoming, and like Venom will want to dance like at the dance. With Peter.
No, it's not gonna.
That's
be
why
that.
Vulture's coming back.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the freaking Spider-Man 3 dancing down the street.
yeah. The other technicality they could very well do is just not call it Venom anymore.
Spider-Man and Venom without Spider-Man.
Or
No,
Venom.
It'll probably just be if and I do mean like and I'm only saying this with like genuinely, I think there is 0.0000000.01% chance of this happening. But if they make King in Black a series of movies, that's the only way I see him coming back and them like trying to make it a technicality of it's not Venom, but here's a Venom movie. So we're gonna give you King in Black.
The director did just come out and say that The Last Dance is just the beginning of Noel's on-screen story. And that the King in Black is way too powerful for a one and done. So
I can't.
So this is where you introduce him.
If what he said is a stock, I can't even sell that stock. I have to burn the stock because it's just worthless. It's absolutely worthless. I have to put it on a pile with all the other bad My Time to Shine rumors, and I'm going to have to burn it. It's going to be right there along with the TVA is assembling all the other variants that they matter. I'm putting it right next to it, and I have to light a fire under it.
Dude.
I don't believe that. And I hope I'm wrong. I really hope in 2 weeks from now, I'm here and I'm like, man, Noel is coming back and he's gonna be in all the movies and he's gonna be great, but he's not, and it's gonna suck. And that sucks.
It doesn't. I'm sorry though, but like Spider-Man, I'm glad you brought that up about what the director said of like, it's what we were all saying when the trailer came out, and we're like, I think Noel's pretty much a bigger deal than to be introduced and really not show up. Like, people are going like, is he going to be in the movie for like 3 seconds, like 10 seconds, like how long? And then to be like, Venom's done. So does he stay in the Sony universe, or do we believe the rumors that he's going to switch and be a part of the MCU? And even if he is a part of the MCU, like, how long is he going to stay in the MCU? Like, either way you slice it, I don't think it ends up being like favorable for Noel.
No, there's no scenario where him coming back is a net benefit to Noel's character. There's just not, because if you make him a Spider-Man villain, which he's not, what ends up happening is if Tom gets his suit in Spider-Man 4, well, he's gonna have to beat Noel in one movie. He doesn't have time because he has to go deal with Iron Man being Dr. Doom, but calling himself Victor Von Doom. He's already going to be confused with that. Who the heck is this random scraggly dude from Sony? Who's Sony? He's going to be so confused.
Well, Vulture's going to come back and tell him. He's going to be like, I've seen some things. I've seen Sony.
I saw Sony. Don't you understand? I was next to a vampire who played the Joker. And he said, who's the Joker?
Sony, who saw DC, who saw DCU.
You know,
Doctor Strange is like, I saw Paint.
Yeah.
I saw Universe of Paint. What about that?
Like, shut up, Doctor Strange. And then what? He's going to beat him by wearing the first symbiote that he ever encounters, which in the first movie, this same symbiote could barely beat another symbiote. Come on now, get out of here. Get out of here.
Damn.
We'll save the rest of the Venom talk for next week.
Yeah.
Next. Any other MCU news that you guys want to touch on before we get into the deep dive?
There was a little picture of Joseph Quinn on set in the Human Torch suit, and the Fantastic Four suit, which looked pretty cool.
I do vibe with this.
Yeah.
I like there's like two camps of, I typically don't like it, but I do like it for the Fantastic Four. There's like the puffy space suit where I'm like, if I push it, it feels like Michelin, like there's some squish. And then there's like the fit modern sleek suit where it's like that darkish blue, like steel blue with like black Fantastic Four, and like it has good lines on it, and like it's just crispy like that. I I like both, but this seems fun.
Oop.
Yeah,
I like it.
Look at
yeah.
him.
I
Wonder
can't
what he's
remember.
looking at right here.
I was gonna say I can't remember if I saw something that was saying this is his stunt double or if it's Joseph Quinn. I saw
Oh.
kind of both because like it doesn't fully look like him, but I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see what the full suit looks like in post because I already think this suit looks really cool. It's paying homage to kind of their more modernized, kind of like 80s, 90s era ish suits, and then obviously the old school original costumes. So
Yeah.
I appreciate them a lot, honestly.
Yeah. Man,
But
I can't wait for him for the Human Torch and thing.
Yeah.
Really,
oh,
really.
you mean this bad boy?
Yeah, I think we talked about this when this came out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about it
we
being a practical suit.
I think they're
Suits look
killing
good.
it. The practicalities.
Yeah. I still
F4
wish
Hook, man.
they would have worn those on like and done some announcement, like or just like they release a photo or something with them. I want to see their suits.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They never kind of did that. They never did like a full announcement.
No.
They did like their weird little pajama looking ones.
Yeah, pajama llama.
Yeah, but those don't really look that good. And we never really got like a official first look. It was all through like key art.
We just
The
have
only
first
one we
steps.
got-
Just
the only-
first steps.
Only one we got was when they did the D23 one.
But that wasn't even like official. You know what I
was
mean?
Official?
It wasn't released to the public. It wasn't released on like Marvel's social
yeah.
medias.
Oh,
That's
Zaid.
true. That's a good point.
Point 3 certified comment right there.
Oh, this
Oh.
is beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Boom.
Speaking of fantastic, but before we do that, if you guys like what you're hearing so far, give this video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe to the channel because our Road to series is kicking off in fantastic. Are we gonna say fantastic again?
It's
that it?
fantastic. If the people request it, we had to.
Yeah, we have to. We
Okay.
pause for the people. All the point through people.
Yeah.
We'll see. But deep dive. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Born ready.
Okay. Hero, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So Fantastic Four, the history of them in comics, it's this is something we've been meaning to do for the past couple weeks, but again, because of the storms, the hurricanes going on, and then just general life stuff, we got pushed to this week, but we are here to talk about it. So thank you for being here with us. So kind of going back into the 60s, right? If you think about the superhero back then, they were basically perfect. They didn't have flaws. They were kind of the ideal person that you wanted to be in quite literally every way. You had people like Superman, right? Which again is very fitting that this is the road to Superman and Fantastic Four at the same time. Again, in this case, focusing on Fantastic Four. But you had people who, again, you looked up to because they were near perfect. And again, in the society at the time, that was kind of what everybody wanted to see, right? Come in Marvel, who's kind of having a hard time with what they're doing in comic books. Their monster stories aren't really working. Their Western stories aren't really working. So they're having a tough time, right? Trying to figure out what to do. Enter Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who end up creating the Fantastic Four, right? And the Fantastic Four are everything that you don't want to see in a superhero. They're flawed. They argue. they don't have costumes at first. Yeah, if in case people don't know, the Fantastic Four costume didn't debut, I think, till issue 3 or 4
Mhm.
is what it is. So they're super flawed. Super flawed. And that is the thing that starts bringing people into them because they see the fact that they are essentially the families that they have at home. And when people see that, they flock to it. It basically saves Marvel at the time and creates Marvel's first family in the Fantastic Four. So, gentlemen, I think that's not something that a lot of people really kind of talk about anymore. How the flaws are what make them
Mhm.
relatable, and the things that make them kind of interesting. And it's interesting to see that, not trying to tie it into the movies already, but how the movies kind of miss the mark with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that, and just kind of thinking of, you know, superheroes at that time. To your point, you do have them as larger than life figures, right? Their chests are puffed out and they're stopping the bullet and it's bouncing off, and everyone loves them and they're perfect in every way. But when you really do start to get into the Fantastic Four around that time, it's very interesting with some of the series that they have that first came out and some of the defining story arcs, like the Galactus trilogy, being number one of really how they started to shape, again, not just the Fantastic Four, but the future of the entire Marvel universe. And of course, that spans across to the other side of the pond from a DC perspective as well. But I do have to say, going through and just looking at the story for what Stanley and Jack Kirby did, um, I was pleasantly surprised to, I've heard about this, but going through and reading it and just seeing how they humanize characters, knowing that someone like a Galactus is here and for all he is worth, knowing that the Watcher is there for everything that the Watcher does. Like, if you were to hear that, you're just like, oh my gosh, it sounds super fantastical. But even with those scale of characters plus the Silver Surfer here, Reed, Ben, obviously Johnny, Sue, and even Alicia just feel so grounded, and you're like, yeah, I can relate to you 100%. So with that kind of, I know Spider Brando, you went through and did some light reading in the early parts of this. Did you kind of get that sense, and kind of what are your feel overall in the early parts of the Fantastic Four in comics?
They they've really humanized every part of dialogue in there to where it kind of, like, looking back at it now, it kind of feels dragged out a little bit and was a little harder to read for me, at least. But they still did a great job of, like you get invested into the whole universe that way, of just even seeing the dialogue of these random people on the streets that they talk to, of having conversations with them, makes you get immersed into that world, which I did appreciate. But trying to read through it a little faster, oh, there's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
um but they did a great job. Excuse me. They did Lee and Kirby did a great job at, I guess, changing the tide of how a superhero team should be, or not should be, but could be in that aspect. And getting to read their origin through those first couple issues of, like, the original comics was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that I think people forget when it comes to really this, how much they influence comics in general, is that a lot of Marvel's universe that we know it as now is really built through the Fantastic Four. Um, even Spider-Man. I think we kind of mentioned this in another stream once, that Spider-Man felt like a big deal because in his first issue he crosses paths with them. And I think, for people back then, that was huge. That was the equivalent to him kind of with the MCU of him dealing with Iron Man. This was just that back then. Him dealing with the Fantastic Four immediately established him in the people's eyes, in the general public, that, hey, he's enough to go toe to toe with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's up there. He has a rivalry with the Human Torch. It was super interesting to people back then, and this continued for, years to come. You had the first supervillain team up in their book. You continue to build out this cosmic side of Marvel. You got the Inhumans, the Hulk crossing over, X-Men. I know I said Inhumans already, but you had Black Panther.
Yeah.
A huge character today. All that started within the pages of the Fantastic Four. And all of these people, when you read all of these stories, you really get to see why they interacted with the Fantastic Four, and why to this day, if you're reading these Fantastic Four and other comics, when you see these characters, you gain an appreciation of why they all kind of seem so close, especially, for example, like, I think a very, very good example is when you see the history of all these characters and then you see the Illuminati. How Reed is kind of the leader of the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all these people that you can clearly tell he has some history with, some good, some bad. But up to a point, they all kind of trust him.
Yeah.
And it's super cool to see that. And again, this is built through their history, their long tenured history. In the medium.
And I like that too, because, for a lot of people, they see Fantastic Four as like, it's the first family, right? It's a group of superheroes. They went into a cosmic storm and they developed these powers, right? But for their characters specifically, especially at these beginning times, they were explorers, they were scientists, they were adventurers in this, right? And their stories didn't just put them against the villains that they put in the pages, right? It wasn't just a Galactus, it just wasn't just a Mole Man or someone along those lines, or the Inhumans, right? But it was forces beyond human comprehension. And you got to think too of, like, this came out in the 60s. There was a lot that was going on. We know that Marvel Comics and just comics and stories in general very much tie into the times. So the space race was huge around this time. So to have a story to where you're putting in this kind of exploration and adventure story to people while there's this Cold War type of thing going on, that's huge for a bunch of readers. But again, to Hero's point, not only do you have your introduction of a Galactus and a Silver Surfer, but you get your discovery of the Negative Zone. They really define the cosmic storytelling of this and take you through a journey through all these storylines, that your exploration, and you bump into a Black Panther. That's the introduction to Wakanda. That's the introduction. You know what I mean? And like, as that story goes and you read that, it is very telling of the times that they have. So it's just really cool to kind of see how that developed, but it felt surprisingly organic and didn't feel like we're down on readers, let's just plop somebody in here at times. That foundation is, key to really, giving us what we have today.
Yeah. And you brought up a great point, because another part of that is Stan Lee's writing, right, where he takes them on these fantastical adventures, but then also the other half of that equation, Jack Kirby, and his just awesome artwork, awesome artwork all around. But Lou, you said something that I thought was really intriguing when we were going through some of these issues, especially in the Galactus trilogy, where Kirby had this thing where you'd have good artwork, and then you would have an insane, and I mean insanely detailed splash page of something from outer space. And I mean, if you're reading this in the 60s as a child, your mind is probably blown, because you've never seen anything like this, especially that detailed in a comic. To this day, those pages, and I mean Jack Kirby's art in general, holds up fantastic. But then immediately your next page is a lot lower detailed.
Oh, I have an example.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Boom.
Yeah. Like, if you
Boom.
read this, it's so funny. It's so funny. But like if you can go back to that picture, if you look at that, like again, think of you as a kid who you're hearing all these news about people going into space, and then in the comic that you bought off the newsstand the other day, you see that. You see your favorite character within one of the Fantastic Four, just out there doing that.
That's so trippy. It's just trippy to look at right now.
Dude, it takes you by surprise though. Like, go forward, like majority of the panels do have this type of art to where it's like it just feels a little loose, right? But yeah, when it hits you and you get to that next page and you see that panel, it just is very striking, um and very interesting, and it happens a few times throughout the series. But I will say the great thing about this specifically is when you do see those kind of awe-inspiring panels and the art, and just you're just like, wow, um, it's very much portrayed through the character that's on screen with Reed. A lot of Reed's exploration is wow. Johnny, a lot of his exploration is wow. Ben, like at Sue, everyone has these moments to where you're following through with them, and because it's so new at the time, I could only imagine how insane this was as a reader, like a kid back then, just going through this and being like, we're trying to get on the moon, literally, but now like we're seeing a different universe that exists that's opposite from ours, and like people are trapped there, and like the thing and the emotion and the drama of like, yo, pull me back, and it's like, psych, it's actually not the thing. It's some guy who wants to be the thing, who wants to stop Reed. And it's just like these little nuances that are placed in there. And it just all blends together very, very well to give you, you know, a complete enough story. And I'll say this, going back through, I was kind of dreading it a little bit. I'm more of a modern comic person myself, but post the Galactus saga, and as you get into like following along of Johnny in college, you're just like, what? Like, where are we going with this? And they're like, oh, by the way, there's tons more to the story, and it all strings together. And then you get to Black Panther, and you're like, this is sick. Like, this is pretty cool. And then Claw, and like all these characters that just get introduced. It was a fantastic run. I mean, I think combined we've all spent what? Probably close to like 5-6 hours on early Fantastic Four comics, just going through all this. And a lot of interesting things. We can talk about the characters in a minute, but anything else you guys have on kind of stuff that you picked up from the earlier days in their inception?
I want to touch on Silver Surfer a little bit.
Okay.
I watched a video on Stanley, how he wanted to write Silver Surfer for the first time, and it always amazes me how just the morality duality that this dude has. He has to go out and find all these planets and make connections with all these people on these planets just for someone else to go destroy them. And it definitely gets tolling over the ages.
Yeah.
But I guess I could save that for later now that I think about it, if we're just gonna do the characters. But it stood out to me on the reading and in my past experience with these Silver Surfer epic things that I got a couple months ago. I started reading that the other day too, and those are always exciting.
Yeah, no, agree. And Zaid, yeah, we started off with Stanley and Jack Kirby, kind of the inception of creating the Fantastic Four in the 60s, and kind of, you know, switching up that role of, you know, the godlike characters who are now deemed they are not just untouchable, they are humanized and very relatable. And I think that carries over just to your point, Spider Brando. I just want to call out one panel that I really like that I dropped in Discord for us of the Silver Surfer when he first came in, and he's like, listen, destroy, like, it just is merely a word. We can't change things. We can change elements in the energy. This is the energy that sustains Galactus. It's only him that matters. And you get Alicia, who is kind of that word of reasoning, who's stopping this threat. Like a lot of people are just like, oh, what did Reed do? What did Johnny do? What did Sue or Ben do? And it's Alicia who's coming through, and she's like, no, like we all matter. Every living being, every bird and beast, this is our world, ours type of thing. And like she helps convince the Fantastic Four, helps convince the Silver Surfer that we're just not, Earth isn't just food or energy for Galactus, and then you just kind of move on. Like they're living being things here, and it gives Silver Surfer those human characteristics to like stop and think of like, hey, I get a feeling you're something different. You know what I mean? It's a space alien that just came down. It's like, hey, you're all dead. Like, just let you know, like the clock is running. You have minutes. But I just thought it was kind of a really powerful piece to see that like she changed, his perception, which ultimately helped him stall Galactus to get them to the point where they could defeat him, so that he kind of moved on.
Yeah. What I really appreciate kind of about in general about the Fantastic Four comics, and then also including in this trilogy, is the fact that like you start at the end of one adventure and you keep going into the next, where in issue 48 you're dealing with the fact that the Inhumans, Crystal, Maximus, and all that, boom, as soon as they're done, they're like, hey, we had a little bit of time to relax, bro, there's something out there going on.
Yeah.
Something's coming, and it's huge.
Yeah.
They got to go deal with Galactus, and then they deal with it, right, with the help of Silver Surfer, and then they kind of deal with what that kind of means for everybody. It reads very well, it flows very well, where you don't have to kind of, even if certain issues are very like one-off-ish, it keeps your attention going. And that's not something I had seen in early Silver Age comics, because I've tried reading Silver Age before. I will be quite honest, it's kind of hard because they're very wordy. Spider-Man, like you said, they are very wordy. The only thing I've really gotten through is Amazing Spider-Man, but even that sometimes can kind of drag, and there are some issues in there, some early Spider-Man issues that are like, oh my god, what did I just read? But with Fantastic Four, I didn't get too much of that. There was obviously some silly stuff, obviously, that, and some stuff that maybe didn't age well, but nothing that I've been like, oh god, I hated that.
Yeah.
Whereas with other ones, I was like, ooh, I actively did not, or just could not get through.
It feels deeper at the time, and I think the core thing that I would say is just that moral dilemma that they consistently are showing you time and time again with every character, even after the Galactus event. Like, you get Ben, and it's relatable. Like, man thinks he's like pure ugly, you know what I mean? And like around that time, like he's bullied by everyday people. Like, people legitimately are just, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. Johnny, everyone thinks that he's like, like you're nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you have like your 60s bullies who are dumping water on his head and flipping his tray over. And I'm like, yeah, this guy looks like QB1 of his high school. And you're just treating him like he's like Peter Parker from Spider-Man 1 of just Joe Manganiello trying to punch a locker. It's just, it's an interesting take on there. And I think it's pretty captivating, especially for that Silver Age time.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of going into a different point that I would love to kind of hear your thoughts in Spider-Man. I'll start off with you. Again, going back to the fact that they're very flawed, right? I don't think media has been able to portray them that well, but in both this story, you can kind of see the seeds of it, or not the seeds, but you can see how it affects it. Their flaws with each other, but you also see it in other stories like Fantastic Four Life Story, a newer story that kind of condenses and revamps their history in a way, puts it in a more modern setting. What are your thoughts on the characters and their flaws in there, especially as someone who, I think you've said it before, where you've not been too into Fantastic Four? What was it like seeing them kind of bicker and just kind of, for example, Reed being just kind of a jerk to Sue? Not kind of, an absolute jerk to Sue.
I definitely love the Thing and Human Torch banter. That stood out to me immediately in the first couple issues. Especially because it was just different type of 60s type banter. Um, Reed, I always knew Reed. My friend always just every time he described Drew Richards would always just say that Reed's a dick, even though he's like the smartest person ever. He just is a dick, and so I kind of always had that in the back of my mind. So reading it, it added up as to what my expectations were. Um, but not to say he's like a total dick, but like he could be a little mean at times. But it was I like that they have their flaws and it kind of just makes them be able to build together more, which is the whole point of why Stanley wrote them with the flaws and everything to get like the family bond again. Um and it just works very well.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, and I think a big thing in like comparing the difference between the original '60s comics during the Silver Age to something like a life story. I think it takes everything a step further and makes it feel a little bit more real from the context of like you were saying, Spider Brandon, with like Johnny and Ben, but each of them kind of go on their own story and you get a deeper dive into how they kind of exist in this world that knows that they exist, type of thing, right? But at the same time, I will say the biggest difference, and something that they've never been able to capture in the movies, the animated show, the feeling and the weight of Galactus is coming. Like if you take when Bruce got smoked by Thanos and dropped in the Sanctum Sanctorum and he's like, Thanos is coming, take that, but span that over what, 20 years, 30 years almost, of just like, I know that this world ending thing is coming. Like, you want to talk about feeling the weight of the times of the nuclear age. Just, you don't know when this is going to potentially be dropped on you, but if it is, it's over for you. That's Galactus. Galactus is that 60s post-war nuclear bomb threat that could be coming at any time. You don't know when it is. If you hear the sirens, it's too late. That's Galactus. And I didn't get a better feel of a Galactus than reading Fantastic Four Life Story, and the effect that it has on Reed, which affects Sue, which affects Johnny, which affects Ben, which affects Alicia. Like, their entire squad is messed up because of this looming threat of Galactus that just has trickled down to every single character. I was hooked. That's probably one of the best portrayals of like the big threat is coming that I've seen across any medium, whether that's anime, manga, live action, animated, comics, you name it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys.
Did there.
There's gonna be a lot of that going around today.
No, they started off Life Story with that very well in that first issue alone. I gotta read more of Life Story, but I was liking what I was reading of it.
Yeah, it's super nice. I think Life Story is very good. The main criticism that I saw from people who read it and didn't enjoy it was they were like, it's basically just what happens in the comics. But that is the point of Life Story. It's to condense that for newer readers and to kind of put your own twist into it. And maybe for some people it was too real. Having someone who, not me personally, but if you've had someone who neglects you in your life or pushes you away, or if you've never felt like you're enough, or you've always had self-image problems, all that's present in this story. And then, kind of trying to think about how should I live my life? I think that's very scary to think about for some people, and I think that's really what pushes people away from this particular story. Um, but it's really well done. It's really well done because it makes you ask questions about yourself, and it really shows you the entire history of them as a team, as people as well, condensed into this nice little 6, 7, 8 issues. I think I can't remember.
Yeah.
Um, it's very well done.
And I'll say this too. It makes the start of Victor Von Doom feel a little bit better and ties back into Reed from the point of we know Galactus is coming, and not every story does this, but what I really loved about this story is like think of Age of Ultron. Ultron's gonna drop his, Sokovia and kind of mess everything up, right? Now think about the villain group at the time who's like, hey, I want to stop Ultron. But how I want to stop Ultron is basically going to be something extremely nefarious, but I'll stop Ultron. I'm good enough and smart enough to do that. And then you have your heroes like the Avengers who are like, no, save everyone we can. Let's not do that. You know what I mean? Like limit damage and all that. But they're like, but what if we just blow up the entire Earth? And then Galactus is like, there's no energy. Like, so then he wouldn't come. He wouldn't be here. We'll survive. We'll go somewhere else. We'll come back. We'll rebuild. Like it doesn't matter. But like everyone's gone. Like isn't that great? And they're like, well, that could be a solution, but that's probably not what we're gonna do. They do a really good job of this, and also tying in like you have Reed on that fence of like, hey, I need to find a solution. Let me work on this. And Sue's like, hey, do you want to do something? He's like, no, I can't. And then Victor's like, yo, you want to do something? He's like, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like that is just like, what are you supposed to think is like, if you're Sue, what are you supposed to think is the reader? They do that more times than not to make you feel like, I've had that time where I've asked someone if they want to do something and they don't, but then I literally see them say like, ask someone else to do something. And I'm like, hey, I'm free. And they're like, nah, you can't come. It hits a home a little bit more, I think, from that perspective.
Yeah. It's also kind of the it's a two-parter to that relationship, right? Not a two-parter, it's a love triangle in a way. More for the attention of Reed.
Yeah.
Where, I think everybody's kind of had that phase in their life where people are telling them, hey, stop doing this with this person or associating with yourself with this person. And you're just like, no, you shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. But when you see Reed interacting with Doom, the red flags are so obvious.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. And you would think, why would this smart man not see them? And it's because he's so obsessed with trying to figure this problem out that he's just blind to the most obvious thing. And even later on, he kicks himself for it. And then it also really, because I think some people kind of always have looked at Sue kind of wrong, in a wrong light, especially with her relationship with Namor, where people are like, oh, she shouldn't cheat on Reed, or she shouldn't leave Reed, or, whatever. But you see how Reed treats her, and you're like, why wouldn't she?
Listen, when they pointed out, like, first off, she has one of the most BA moments at the UN when she is like the person who saves the day. Not to throw any spoilers if you are interested in reading this for that moment, but it's actually pretty cool. But it really, I've heard it before, but this is probably the best interpretation of Reed making Sue feel invisible. Haha, her powers are invisibility. Like she truthfully is invisible in every sense of the word when it comes to the most important person in her life. And that was just it. That's just wild. Like she wants to be seen, heard, and felt. And Namor's like, yo, baby girl, like, what's up?
I see.
She's like, yeah. And he gives her the attention. Like, again, another thing that is extremely relatable for people to this day.
Yeah. And then Johnny being this guy who he knows he's matured, and I mean, but he's still being asked, do people care about me? Which is crazy because I think we've all of us in our life at some point be like, do what we do doesn't matter. Do people care? Do people care about me?
Yeah.
And I personally really liked his issue, I think, the most, just because, again, I think we've all kind of gone through that point where we ask ourselves, do I matter?
Yeah.
How do I matter? And I hope that whenever I go out, people care. That's all I want.
Yeah. And even too, like Johnny's story, this is something I hope, because I think in the original issue during the Galactus trilogy, Johnny makes a big move going and getting the ultimate nullifier, essentially goes on this journey into the unknown where there's huge risk, and like he puts his life on the line for the greater good. And it seems like that's a common theme with him throughout the time, all the way up until 2021, to where he again goes through this almost like sad, I don't want to say Joker-esque story, but it's more of like, if I do think of a Joker 1, it's like people think I'm just this guy. Like, I'm just the fun guy. I'm just a party guy. I'm the guy that, or even going back to like Tony Stark in the beginning of the MCU type of thing, like billionaire, playboy, philanthropist type of thing, of like people have this image and stigma that's on you. And like, you don't really know what's going on inside this guy's head, but he is just like, what are we doing? Like, I might as well play the part because why not? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's kind of sad, man. But at the end of the day, like, he's still a hero. And I feel like he delivers like one of the truest senses of what it means to be a hero in the Fantastic Four in a lot of ways. Of, I'll make the big save when it matters because I'm capable to do it, and I can really do things no one else can. Shout out my boy Goku.
Yeah. Push past the limits.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think of like that part in Dragon Ball Z when he does instant transmission for Cell and he gets him out and goes to the Kai's planet because he's gonna explode. Like, no one else can do this but me. I know what I have to do. Those are the vibes you get from Human Torch.
Yeah. And then obviously the thing as well where I enjoyed how in this story it's basically the same story that he's always had, again, of like accepting himself for who he is and seeing that he is deserving of love no matter what he looks like. But I like kind of the way they flip this on their head, where I think in the original comics it's very much more Alicia kind of helps him to accept himself first before he does. But in here, it's flipped to where more he's very bitter. He has nobody to help him out. He's even bitter with Reed.
Yeah.
Like, in this universe, he is truly kind of alone in what he feels. But as he goes through the decades with the team, he learns to accept himself and to be like, no, I am worthy. I am enough. And then when he does that, that's when Alicia comes in.
Yeah. And it's nice too when Alicia comes in, because there are those two parts of where I feel like she does pull that you're accepted kind of thing out from people. But what I love about this is he goes through his biggest, like, the thing in my mind is like, he's a sabotager, man. Like, everything he wants to do, like, the guy can't just accept like to be happy and just to know that people care about him. He's always got to look kind of like glass half empty type of thing of like, if I didn't look like this, then I would have this. And it's like, yo, you have it though. And he's like, but do I really have it? You guys just feel bad for me. You just feel pity for me. Blah, 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 blah. Like, his look and his powers are definitely a handicap, but like, Alicia's an MVP for the Thing story for sure. For sure. And I love how in Life Story they did modernize kind of, he does like online dating type of thing while he's in the 90s and adopts that, and he goes on a blind date, but then again, just like Susan Visible, like the blind date is Alicia. Those of you don't know, she's blind. Yeah, Thing, good story. But to kind of tie up his thing for me in Spider-Man, you alluded to it, of like his relationships with the guys is very cool, of like a guy's guy type of thing in a lot of ways. But it does kind of show you that like got your back no matter what type of thing. Like, the bully beats you up in the alley, but you have that like bruiser friend that shows up and will take on the other 10 dudes type of thing. Like, I like those types of stories with them. And I hope that's another thing. I think from watching The Bear, I think that Ebon can definitely pull that off in terms of his like tone and mannerisms with whatever he has to do in that suit. But I think they'll, if any of these characters get captured, 10 out of 10. I think the thing has the best opportunity with who they casted for in the upcoming movie.
I think Yvonne and Joseph are going to be perfect for this Johnny and Thing relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There's many other things we can kind of talk about within the comics. Might be saved for a part 2, depending,
Yeah.
because I know we're running a little bit over time. But I mean, this isn't even us kind of jumping into the villains. So maybe next time we can take a deeper dive onto their villains. But Doom, we did touch on Galactus a little bit, Annihilus, Mole-Man, many other villains that I think haven't even been introduced to the greater public, like the general audience's knowledge. And then many of the other notable storylines that have come out beyond the ones that we've talked about already. But you've had a lot of different people work on Fantastic Four. You've had people like John Byrne, Jonathan Hickman. More recently, that's already been a little over 10 years now, but still recent enough. You're getting new ones now. My one thing that I do kind of want to touch on, and it'll be the last thing before we head out. I think there's an interesting thing to kind of remember that before the Fox mergers, this was like 2015-ish. There was a time that Fantastic Four comics were discontinued because of the whole rights thing. And I mean, if we think about that, the family that saved Marvel is now canceled completely and out of the general public. Do you guys think that hurt Fantastic Four and has kind of led them to the situation that they're at now?
I mean, dude, for me, like going back through and seeing all this stuff and seeing just how intertwined they are with some of our most favorite characters that we're either A, loving on screen, or B, just begging for more from, it's crazy to think, because you kind of look at it and you're like, what happened? Like there feels like something's off that slowed the momentum that they've had, you know, over the course of coming up on 80 years, but 60 years, but still, I'm very surprised that Fantastic Four ever fell to the feel that they are now of like C to B list type characters in a lot of ways, especially post movie attempts. Like it's just like, like they should feel like the X-Men, where you're like, when, like, when is this movie coming out? I'm there. Yeah, it's pretty surprising that there were some issues with rights and that they kind of their role.
I think it definitely impacted mainstream people because no one had access to any like weekly recurring comic issues during that time frame where they could have had like, I don't know, a banger of a writer come out and start writing some heat and could have gained traction during that time while Marvel was gaining traction with the MCU. But obviously the rights wouldn't have helped with that anyways. So it's interesting. But I think it definitely hurt it because the less awareness out there, the less people are going to be aware of potential opportunities to get aware of Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Here, I was going to ask you this real quick too. Obviously, if you want to comment on your own comment, but do you think that in combination with just how movies are done and the Fantastic Four maybe didn't visually strike people the way that they can now, also kind of multiplied that in a way to keep the Fantastic Four kind of down the totem pole of characters that are, you know, most sought after and kind of must see?
Oh yeah, 100%. Right, where obviously the first two original Fantastic Four movies had problems. They were still somewhat closer to the source material. You still had a lot of what kind of made them the Fantastic Four, but in the most recent Fantastic Four attempt, a lot of that was thrown out. A lot of that was thrown out, and I mean, and I remember being somewhat online at the time when it came out, and I remember people dragging that movie through the mud for various many issues that it had. So yeah, it definitely hurt it. It hurt its stock. And I mean, even since back then, the movies and comics have always kind of synergized. This is the Fan Four-tastic, the one with Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller and whoever else. Yeah, they've always kind of synergized, even back then. You know, what, 10 years ago ish. For it to not have any synergy now because the movie was so bad that it just kind of eradicated the comics from. I remember because at the time I think CM Punk was trying to vouch to write for Fantastic Four.
That's right.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think he was trying to like campaign himself to write it because I think he wrote a Thing book.
Yeah. Well, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that he was trying to campaign to write Fantastic Four so that way they wouldn't cancel it. So it was obviously a big enough deal that, I mean, celebrities were kind of mentioning on it. So it's crazy to see though, but it really does seem like now they are back in full force. They have a ongoing with Ryan North. I forget who the artist is, but it's going strong. I think it's like on issue 20 something. So I hope it keeps going, honestly.
Yeah.
As long as it can.
Yeah. This is one of those times where, like, and we'll get to it as we kind of carry on further on this road to Fantastic Four. I don't love when movies kind of dictate comics and kind of push people back to them, but this is one where I really do want it to kind of shed a light on, so that they keep the series going and we get more exploration of the stories and kind of have either a new retelling or kind of some original stuff that comes out. Shout out to Moon Knight. But yeah, really looking forward to this, and happy that all of you stuck around for this kind of starts for the Fantastic Four. Stay tuned for our Superman portion of this, which will be coming to a screen near you hopefully in the next week or two. But yeah, it's, if you guys haven't, definitely check out Life Story. Go back and just read kind of the Galactus trilogy. Just kind of dip your toe back into it. Again, it's always awesome to read. It's something we promote here on the channel all the time. But read, watch, nerd out about the Fantastic Four, because the build is obviously coming and we're going to get some really cool stuff that's going to come out from Marvel. We've already seen some really great things we've shown you guys here today in this live stream, but gents, anything else that you have for Fantastic Four? No.
Nope.
All right. Well, appreciate all you who joined us live. If you're watching this after the fact, we appreciate you just as much. Stay tuned to the channel for our Road 2 series again. If you want some updates, have questions, you want to join and participate, definitely check out our Discord. Discord always eats first. And there are some fantastic people that are in all of our chats across various fandoms. So it's not just MCU and DCU. If you're a sports fan, jump in there. You like music, jump in there. Art, jump in there. We talk about tons of things. Feel free to participate in Question of the Day because it is on point right now with the Point 3 podcast. But everyone, with that, this is the end of our live stream. We are your favorite trio of hosts. And of course, there's 3 things that you have to keep doing. And that is to keep watching, keep reading, and keep nerding out. We will see you next Wednesday.